The Edinburgh Shoreline project has been discovering how fantastic our 27 kilometres of coast is, from Port Edgar in the west to Joppa in the east. The project has listened to and learned from local communities while exploring the shoreline's natural and cultural heritage.
There is this amazing resource in the north of the city, 27 kilometres of it, and it holds huge potential and current value for people that use it.
The Shoreline project has explored our relationship with this coast and how it's changed over time. Are we as connected with the sea as we were in the past? And do we realise the significance of Edinburgh's coastline?
I grew up in Edinburgh at Portobello, so I've got all these memories, but I realise now they were very superficial. I didn't know the Firth was so important for birds. I didn't know about the fossils at Wardie Bay.
We're living in a site that's considered to be exceptional. Much of it is a European protected site for birds as part of the 4th SPA, particularly wintering birds who come here in enormous numbers. If you go to Cramond and you look at the mudflats in the autumn, there's loads of different wading birds feeding there, so that's pretty special, very close to the city centre, having a spectacle like that to go and watch.
This area here at Granton Beach is one of the most important fossil sites in the world for the Carboniferous time. So about 320, 330 million years ago, the rocks around here, a lot of them were just underwater, and they were really rich with lots of different very ancient fish. So it's dead easy to find fossils of dogfish, but also there's some really rare and quite incredible things have been found there as well.
There's a kind of ecology going on that you might see on the television in the Antarctic. You think of these things as being exotic. There's a load of stuff, predation, ecology happening right here in the shallows, ankle deep on the Forth in Edinburgh on the coastline.
We have been discovering with the project participants just how biodiverse the shoreline is, but we have seen that the Edinburgh shoreline has its fair share of issues.
I've never lived by the sea before, but as soon as I moved here it became increasingly clear what kind of damage we were doing. There's a whole network around the country of people doing these beach cleans, so we've also been telling our local MSPs and councillors and so on. There's been primary schools in the area, Wardie Primary, Trinity and Granton, they've all been engaged. So it's been such a positive thing. The SOS, Save Our Seas, is just a simple signal that we want to send out to help wrap up the continuing need for change on a policy level. We can't simply have willing volunteers like this all along our shoreline. It needs to not be coming here in the first place.
The wildlife at the moment is quite squeezed. There are really extensive areas along this north part of Edinburgh which are subject to intense development pressure.
Very early on in the project, we were contacted by a volunteer who lives locally in Portobello, and she was commenting on the fact that she had started doing beach cleans, but actually what this area really needed was some improvement to the green spaces.
I cycle through the area every day on my way to work, and I've always noticed, it could be improved. It could be a really lovely habitat area, a nice place for people to enjoy and to encourage wildlife.
We've got a community initiative at the Granton Hub. We've set up a wildflower nursery down there, and with volunteers we're growing on seeds that either we collect locally or we purchase from Scottish sources, so it's all Scottish native seed that we're using, and we're growing those on as plug plants so they can be planted out to enrich or enhance areas like bits of amenity grassland that are actually just not really serving any particular purpose.
Today's event was try and get the Edinburgh community down to the beach and see what's living here.
We've been collecting pictures and learning about seaweeds. I found some pennywinkles and some crabs.
The shoreline is a tribute to the coast of Edinburgh made by the people who live there. Lots and lots of people have been involved in making individual pieces of it as a way of raising awareness of the existence of a shoreline in Edinburgh and how much of it was popular, and to try and popularise the bits that hadn't been so well known. At the heart of that was bringing people together to make something and thinking through doing.
A lot of Edinburgh Shoreline is hard sea defences, and it is possible to make sea defences more interesting from a biodiversity point of view and therefore more pleasing for people.
We developed a series of ecologically enhanced tiles aimed to attract a range of intertidal species up on the structure at Cramond. The project was a great success. From monitoring the tiles, we've seen an increase in species richness and abundance. You can attract barnacles, which have an important bioprotective function that can reduce salt and heat damage for your structure. We need to accommodate the species that are losing their habitat on the shoreline, and that's particularly important in the face of a change in climate with sea level rise.
The project participants held a major exhibition in summer 2018 at the Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh, and commissioned a map to explore how people interact with the shoreline. Our exhibition attracted over 40,000 visitors and included examples of work by community groups from different parts of the coast.
The past has been incredibly different, so if we reflect on that and then project to the future could be very different as well. And the Shoreline project is just a chance to consider how do we want the future shoreline to be.
Throughout the project, we've heard from people who immensely value the shoreline and all that it has meant to the city over centuries. There is an appetite for improved access and all the benefits that this will bring for landscape, people and wildlife. We're approaching this at a really fortunate time, just as developments are in their early stages and the city considers its 2050 vision.
The developers, they'll come, they'll develop and then they'll go, but we'll be remaining here and we need to have an answer to our aspirations. Local people are going to be affected by what is being described as the biggest building site in Europe. All the houses that are going to be built along this section of the foreshore are going to have a serious effect on people, and we have to always think of how people should live in the future. It's not just about tomorrow, it's about 30, 40 years' time.
I would like to see more paths and managed walkways. Nobody will value a shoreline if they can't get at it.
Green space, even without you thinking about it, helps you feel more calm. It helps with people's mental health. It also helps with the economy because as places become more attractive, they are better for attracting businesses. And because the workforce is more relaxed, they're more productive. So it's a win-win-win-win-win.
I would like to see a recognition of the existing biodiversity on those sites being taken on board when those new developments are being planned. We should have a green infrastructure strategy for the entire shoreline. There's plenty of expertise and knowledge now about how to do sustainable development.
We heard from the public that their main concerns are how future development might change the fabric of the shoreline, litter on beaches and in particular plastic pollution, water quality, limited access to the coast and a need to preserve quality green space and climate change.
This is a real gift to have a shoreline as part of a capital city, and Edinburgh could be a world leader in how it continues to develop its shoreline. So to embrace biodiversity and create spaces and green infrastructure so that people can get from A to B without going on busy roads, and that contributes enormously to health and well-being. It draws people to this north part of the city instead of the focus being on the centre all the time. It's a place to go to escape from the relentless pressure of city life.
We have such a great opportunity at this critical point to reimagine a vibrant future for our city's shoreline, to recreate a strong sense of place, character and identity, to strengthen the identities of its communities and protect its wildlife with an accessible and diverse green coastal infrastructure.